What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another great episode. Hope you guys have had a great new year, getting into 2024 smoothly. If you're new to the channel, this is what we do. We look at not only conspiracy theories, but we're looking at things that are out there that can help us know the truth. You know, things that show us our truth, our history, things that try to raise our vibrations, keep us on a positive note, but also things that are going to keep our families safe, whether it be toxic food, GMOs, toxic water. You know, all of these things are terribly bad for you. And it seems like everything, you know, in this corporation of a country that we live in is trying to harm us, you know, and put us into this cycle of disease, doctors, unalive, you know, and just, you know, pills and everything. So we're trying to, you know, build this community together of like-minded people to where we can research these things and help each other out and find out what's going on out there. So as a disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. Don't believe anything that I say. Don't believe anything that you see on these videos. Do your research, though. I highly encourage you to do your research. You know, you can go to Caltech's website and read the Sumerian tablets, the Enuma Elish, you know, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Tablets of Thoth, the Kabbalion, Kabbalistic texts. These are all great things to read, and it's something that you should read and have stored in your memory bank, because they're gonna help you, and it's very important to understand these things. So on that note, let's get into it.
In a law dictionary, you talk about being human. You know, well, I have human rights, the Human Rights Commission. You know what the word human means in a law dictionary? Hue is a word for color. You're a colored person. Hue, man. You look up the word human in a law dictionary, and it says, see monster. Law dictionary, not Jordan Maxwell. See monster. Okay, you look up the word monster. A monster is a human being by birth, but in some parts resembling a lower animal. A monster, having no inheritable blood and cannot be an heir to any land. So much for being a human being. And of course, that is the way the superior authorities on the earth view the human family. I also understand, I may not agree with necessarily, but I do understand the thinking of powerful men who look upon the masses as nothing but a bunch of sheep. Because in point of fact, too many of us act like that. I don't like tyranny. I don't believe the God that created us divinely ordained us to be in chains. I think that the human spirit has always and will always rise above petty politics.
The truth is hidden in plain sight, and this is how they hide everything. If you are looking for the knowledge that has been hidden from us, that explains how actually brainwashed we are. If you want to know the meaning behind these symbols, if you want to know who controls the world, this ebook will literally unveil that to you, and ye shall know the truth, and truth shall set you free.
So if you don't know who that is, that was Jordan Maxwell. He's been on a couple of my videos. He's been, you know, speaking the truth since the 60s or 70s. I can't remember. But he's been out there, and he's extremely intelligent. So that's somebody I would highly suggest you look up his videos, do research on what he's talking about, because he speaks on all topics, and there have been people that have tried to unalive him. Said that he has processes in place to make sure that that doesn't happen, or else he'll expose, you know, all kinds of things that they definitely don't want exposed. But yeah, definitely do your research on him.
In Genesis 9:1, God says to Noah and his family after the flood, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth. And I've asked the rabbis and checked on it, and replenish the earth is correct. Re means do again. Why? Well, because everyone died in the flood, so you have to repopulate the earth. But go back to Genesis 2:28, where God is creating Adam and Eve, and he says the same exact words, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth. Do it again. So what we're talking about is the same thing Jeremiah is talking about. Jeremiah says, I saw in a vision the earth when it was a meeting place for the gods, and then it became a waste and a desolation. I believe that there is no doubt in my mind that this world has been inhabited for perhaps millions of years, and the powers that be on this earth are connected to that lineage going back thousands and thousands of years into a world that you have never known. And somewhere along the line, I believe those powers are going to make themselves known to us. And when that happens, it's going to be an awesome event, because the way these entities, for lack of a better term, the way these gods work is that they're very slow. They're in no hurry. When you're in control, there is no need to be in a hurry. You don't have to impress anyone or show anyone anything. When you get ready to move, the world will know it. And I believe that this is exactly what is coming now. I believe we're getting ready to see the powers of this world shaken. The prophecies in the Bible are merely one of the many different prophecies. The Aztecs, the Mayas, the Toltecs, of Incas, my God, all over the world the ancient texts have told us there's going to come a time when, in our language, in America, we would say what goes around comes around.
The truth is hidden in plain sight, and this is how they hide everything. If you are looking for the knowledge that has been hidden from us, if you want to know the meaning behind these symbols, if you want to know who controls the world, this ebook will literally unveil that to you, and ye shall know the truth, and truth shall set you free.
Yeah, I would definitely look him up if I were you. The definition of occult means hidden, so occult knowledge is just hidden knowledge. There's a lot of places, like the books I mentioned. There's a lot of places where you can find that kind of knowledge and understand where things came from. You can even do it by just studying the etymology of words. You know, I used to do that, so I understood where these words came from. It's like the word human gives you some insight into how things were and how things are.
Western civilization is based on the white man's culture, and the white man's culture comes from Europe. For 1,000 years before the Roman Empire ever existed, and it still exists today in Europe, was a whole system of government, religion, law, etc. was already established before Rome ever came about. Was called the Druid system. Druids, well, they were the lawyers, the attorneys, they were the judges, the religious leaders, they were everything. The doctors, the medical, everything was Druid in Europe. One of the most important symbols in the Druid religion was a magic wand, like the conductor of an orchestra. He waves his magic wand and you had better dance to the tune because he's the boss. So the magic wand, like Merlin the magician, magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. So once you understand it's the magic of Hollywood that's orchestrating the whole world to dance to a new tune.
Wow. So where does that leave us?
It leaves you in a world of trouble. If you are ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, you need to open your mind and discover for the first time that law, courts, education, it's all part of a system. You need to begin to open your mind, understand how the world really works.
Very well said. And not to push religion, but you know, even in the Christian Bible, God says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge," not lack of food, not lack of MTV or sports or anything. Perish from lack of knowledge. I think he's right when it comes to that.
You need to look at the Vatican. Once you begin to look at the Vatican, now it's going to get serious. Because you need to remember that the Pope has dominated Europe for some 1,600 years. And Europe has dominated the world for 1,600 years. And our American system is a Vatican system. We live under the Vatican in this country. The Vatican system, of course, is based on the ancient Roman system. And in Rome, the seat of power for Caesar was called Capitol Hill. And so every morning, Caesar would go up on the hill, Capitol Hill. Capital is a Latin word for money. You either have the capital or you don't. And consequently, in the Capitol Hill, Caesar would meet with the Senate. That's what we have, the Senate. The symbols of the ancient Roman Senate were two fasces, the crossing of the fasces. That's the symbol of the United States Senate, crossing of the fasces. When you see the President of the United States standing and speaking to an audience in the room where the podium and then the Speaker of the House and the Vice President sit behind him, when you see someone making a speech in that room, look on both sides of the podium. Don't look at the person talking. Look at the symbols. For many will look with their eyes but not see, and will listen with their ears but not hear, and with the heart not get the sense of it. You need to open your eyes and look at the symbols on both sides of the podium, which is about an 8 or 9 foot high fascia, called a fascia, a bundle of sticks with a hatchet head, the symbol of royal power in Rome. Our system is under Rome. Doesn't matter what you think of the Roman Catholic Church. It doesn't matter what you think of the religion of the Roman Catholic Church. All you need to know is your country is dominated by the Pope, period.
The truth is hidden in plain sight, and this is how they hide everything. If you are looking for the knowledge that has been hidden from us, if you want to know the meaning behind these symbols, if you want to know who controls the world, this ebook will literally unveil that to you, and ye shall know the truth.
So he's talking about the black pope also, not the white pope. So look up the Jesuit black pope. I've spoken about that on a couple of my videos, but the black pope is one that runs everything. And talking about white pope has over 1 billion followers, but he's just a puppet to the black pope. And they're all Jesuits. They're all Jesuits. So do some research into that. You'll be extremely shocked at what goes on with the Jesuit order.
Saturn. He's referred to as Lord of the Rings. Hollywood's still making movies about Lord of the Rings, and Americans just love it and have no idea in the world what they're looking at. They're telling you something, but you're not listening. So Saturn is the Lord of the black robe. Judges wear black robes. Catholic priests wear black robes. Rabbis wear black robes. Kids graduating from high school and university wear black robes. Black robes are the robes of the planet Saturn. Saturn's color was black. God Saturn in the ancient Phoenician world was referred to as El, E-L. This is why if you're continuing today to worship the planet Saturn, you become known as an elder. How did you get to be an elder? You got elected with elections. Because you were elected, now you're one of the elites. You have become elevated. Words and terms are very, very interesting.
The truth is hidden in plain sight, and
again, he's also talking about the Saturnalia Brotherhood. You can look that up. Saturnalia Brotherhood, ancient esoteric societies that is pretty much completely evil. You know, there's no good in it. So look that up. They didn't say it on here. I don't know why. Maybe they cut the clip short, but I know he's talking about the Saturnalia Brotherhood. It's been around for a while.
And I am so convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we are in a time in which the human family, again, is going to mutate. It's going to come face to face with the powers that be. And there's going to be a change in the affairs of mankind. And I am frightened because of the implications of this, because we're not ready. We're not a very well-read people. We're not very open-minded. I'm reminded of a quote that says, always trust a person looking for the truth. Don't ever trust the one who's found it. There is something going on. There is a profound significance to the people. Well, the writers and the authors are on the cutting edge of a whole new technology of science, a whole new technology of power, and I do believe that individuals have been chosen to help the rest of the human family to progress and wake up and prepare yourself for what's coming. Because there's no doubt in my mind we're not going to continue the way we're going. We don't deserve freedom. We don't deserve to be treated as spiritual beings because we haven't acted like it. I am fascinated with the world of the occult, the mystical world of power that has been around us from day one, and I think the human family is finally being brought into a position where we're going to see these things for the first time and appreciate the powers that be over us.
the truth is hidden in plain sight, and
Don't ever just accept anything on its face, because I don't like religion, period. I'm interested in truth. And anyone who gets paid, financially gets paid to be a skeptic doesn't impress me. People who call themselves scientists and they're doctors, they have PhDs, that doesn't impress me either. All of Hitler's top Nazis were all doctors, PhDs. Dr. Mengele, who murdered children. So I'm not impressed with doctors. I'm not impressed with government. I'm not impressed with mankind. I'm impressed with the foundations, the ancient foundations of the human family and where we're going as a species on this earth. And I realize that there's some serious things going on in this world that we need to look at. I think that what's going on in the world today, and it's unfortunate because there's some very serious things happening in the world today, and I'm not sure where it's all going, but I am sure of one thing, that we are leaving an old dispensation, an old period of time, and we are entering a new dispensation, for a lack of a better term. We're entering into a new time on the evolution of man.
The truth is hidden in plain sight.
Okay, this is the last one I'm going to put up, but I think it's important for you all to hear this, understand it, understand it, take this all in, because this one is extremely important.
Because you need to understand there's a world of difference between the United States and America as a country. In 1870s, 1878 to be exact, there was a privately owned corporation incorporated called United States Corporation. And it was stipulated in the corporation papers that anyone who would work for that particular corporation would be called a citizen, not an employee. It's a privately owned corporation. It was referred to as United States. So today, if you're conducting business in this country and someone asks you if you're a citizen of the United States and you say yes because you perceive the question is, are you lawfully in this country to do business? And you say yes. They didn't ask you if you were a citizen of America. They didn't ask you if you were lawfully in America. According to international maritime admiralty law, they ask you a question. Are you, of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testifying that you are a citizen of the United States? The United States is a privately owned corporation. It's a privately owned company. And if you say, yes, I am a United States citizen, now that makes you an employee of a privately owned foreign corporation.
The truth is hidden in...
What if the Mandela effect could actually be proven? The Mandela effect is a phenomenon where millions of people remember past events differently from what they originally happened. For instance, the Monopoly guy using a monocle. A lot of people remember him using a monocle, but apparently he never did. If you search it up, you'll see he never did. The same thing with this video. A lot of people remember the reporter being blonde.
Please. I mean, I love our chances. You know, it's been on the field.
The thing is, there are a couple of people capturing the Mandela effect on camera, and it's the case with the thought police, who has been using an old phone to see somehow through a parallel dimension. This is what he recorded from the same video. You can see there, she's blonde.
Let me pause that right there. So I've tried to do this because I had some older phones, but the batteries weren't working. So I plan on finding older phone like Palm Trio you just saw, something like that, because I specifically remember that woman being blonde. You know, I very vividly remember that. And the whole thing about the Monopoly guy having a monocle, I've stated this on a couple of videos. I have a collector's edition of Monopoly from the 80s as a monocle. I can show photos of it. So I actually plan to do this because I want to see if it's actually works.
Officially, she was never blonde, but ChatGPT remembers Emily Austin actually being the woman from this commercial. So this is where things get even stranger. A YouTube account captured the Mandela effect happening live. Check this out.
I hung this thing up. I got it a long time ago. My cousin painted that picture. It used to be hanging over here. I've decided to move it over there and put this over here just for the hell of it. I'm only bringing this up because until I had done those two things, things were normal inside of this room. right here. So it's the night I did this, it was just a couple nights ago, that really weird stuff started to happen in that room. And things, I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was seeing stuff. So I'm doing this video so you guys can see. And I'm going to show it to you live. This book, this is one of my nephew's books. I'm going to show you, as I pass through this doorway, what happens. And it's fucking weird. All right. It happens when it gets in the room. See it? And then back out here. Normal. Yeah. What the fuck? Uh-huh. Yeah. And then normal. This just creeps me out.
What do you guys think about that? Those two things that he hung up give me bad vibes to begin with. They're absolutely creepy. And I'm not sure why those would cause this to happen, but I've seen someone else do the same thing. Not sure if you guys have ever seen that video of the man who opened a portal in his room using this little device and sound, and it was you could see through it. It was even on the news, and it was see the place where the portal was looking at, and it was looking at Arizona. And so he went through there, and they say, nobody's heard from him since, but who knows what the truth is. But this is just really strange. I'm wondering how true this is.
Have you ever asked yourself if we're living in an alternate dimension or a parallel dimension of some sort? Well, maybe we are. If you remember the evil witch in the Disney movie saying, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, you're from a parallel dimension," this is evidence. Check this out. This is crazy.
So I need to weigh in on the Snow White Mandela effect. Now, some of us remember it as the evil witch or evil queen going to the mirror and saying, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" But apparently, the Mandela effect is that she always said, "Magic mirror on the wall." Now, I don't believe that to be true. I call horseshit. I know it was mirror, mirror. But I've been looking for videos that says mirror, mirror, and I can't find one. So I found this one from 9 years ago. And listen to what it says.
Okay, so I started researching the topic and, going crazy about it, and I found this video. Check this out.
What wouldst thou know, my queen?
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
I mean, what? Magic mirror on the wall? She never said mirror, mirror on the wall. I didn't find any video of her saying mirror, mirror on the wall, but I remember her saying mirror, mirror on the wall. So this woman goes on and actually shows evidence.
I heard magic mirror too.
Check this out.
Are we in a parallel universe? Right, but now I remember. It was Mirror, Mirror on the Wall because I had a book when I was a little girl. It was my favorite book in the entire world. It's a Disney book that had all of the stories, all the Disney stories written out. And I used to read this book obsessively when I was little. And I still have it. Now, I was little, like 40 years ago. So this book is 4 decades old. Watch. Treasure of Children's Classics. And 1978. Okay, that's how old this book is. 1978, people. Here is the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Mirror, mirror on the wall. And for those thinking, oh, maybe it's a typo. Wrong, because look at this. Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Have you ever asked yourself if we're living?
So what do you guys think about that? I've always known it to be mirror, mirror on the wall, just like I'm sure you all have. Bit off topic, but most of the Disney stories, you know, they came from Germany, so we had the original versions, and they were much more what's the word? Not evil or volatile, but they weren't all happy-go-lucky as Disney does it. I have this book still called Grimm's Fairy Tales by the Grimm brothers, and a lot of German kids like I did grew up reading those, and so these are the original stories without the happy-go-lucky anti stuff in it. So you should look it up. Check it out. It's actually very interesting.
People are freaking out over a video of a supposed giant on top of a mountain in Thailand, in the Chiang province. What makes this video very different is the fact that you can clearly see what looks like a humanoid figure on top of a mountain, but by the distance that it is, it has to be huge, and it's moving somehow just like a human would. I'm going to play the video and let you decide. Check this out. Check this out. Look at that. What the heck was that?
Yeah, I think that's the third one I've seen like that, of giant on top of a mountain, and it's hard to guesstimate the size, but you know, if a normal sized person on a mountain about that distance, you'd barely be able to see them. This thing just sticks out at the top of a mountain. There's a lot of theories going around about Nephilim waking up, you know. So some people think that that's what this is. That's why they're going to the tops of these mountains, to make themselves known, to make it known that they've woken up, they've awoken. But I'm not sure, but I just know giants are coming out of everywhere all of a sudden.
A video is going viral of this very strange black goo type substance supposedly made out of nanotechnology. The weirdest part is that some internet users are saying that this was actually found buried in ancient pyramids. I'm gonna play the video and let you decide. This is really, really strange. Check this out. Pay attention. Look at that. What? A video is...
I want to know what happens if it gets to the ring. You know, why is it attracted to the ring or the metal, the gold, if it's real? This kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen this. I'll try to find it, put it in one of my videos. But so, the Bedouin tribes in Egypt, the Bedouin are the ones that you see, you know, out in the deserts, completely covered up on horses, and they live in the deserts where they thrive. Well, a lot of the Bedouin, especially the younger generations, they raid tombs, you know, they raid artifacts in Egypt all the time. If you go to Egypt, hit the market, you know, people will have all of these little stands in the market selling fake artifacts. You know, so they'll show you something that looks like a toothpick and that they've faked, you know, some kind of stone plate or something, claiming it's, you know, thousands of years old by these people. But there was one video where they actually found, and this is the crazy part. So, you know, the acorn, the pineal gland, photos of the Sumerian gods holding that acorn like thing. So there are videos of some of these people that are Bedouin finding these things. And one of the videos, he just drops it into a glass of water and it instantly boils. And the other video, I mean, the other thing is he's holding it and then he puts it in front of a mirror and all you can see are his bones. You can't see anything but bones. You can't even see the object he's holding. It's like an x-ray. And so yeah, there's and it was attracted to metal too. So I mean that's extremely powerful for that, you know, whatever that object is, to have that kind of power. And I've seen multiple videos on it, you know, all from the same areas, you know, same group of people. And I'm not sure if they even know what it is, but that's very strange and powerful, just like this, you know. I don't know what kind of nanotech this was made out of, but it's definitely strange, and I'd like to see more of it so I could form some kind of thoughts around it. They're not showing a whole lot here, so I'd like to see more of what this could do, what it could be.
Venturing into the woods all by yourself can sound like a good idea at first, but it may turn out to be a nightmare, a creepy adventure, which is the case with Erlo Brown, who went hiking all by himself in South Africa when all of a sudden this happened.
I think we have found a perfect place to place the trail camera. So this trail running along here is literally the only entrance and exit for this entire valley. And you can see it's very narrow, so it's very easy to funnel the animals in one spot. You know exactly where they'll be walking. It's very dense around here. So I guess animals can walk wherever they want. They don't need the trail. But I'm almost 100% convinced we'll catch some animals on this trail. Just look at how nice that is. I just have to find a good spot to place the camera.
He was trying to find a tree to place his trail cam when all of a sudden he hears an unknown sound. The only thing is, it's not a human nor an animal.
So maybe a tree. I reckon this tree could maybe work. Although that's going to be very obvious. Maybe if we find something that's a little bit further into the tree line, so it's better hidden, this could perhaps work. Idea what that was. That was not an animal. I think I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, he made the smart decision to leave. If I heard that, nope, I'm noping my ass out of there. That is insane. I've heard that that's what Sasquatches sound like. Sounds like 20 dogs screaming and barking or deep voice all at once. And yeah, I'd be out if I heard that. And it's sad. I said this in one of my other videos. You know, I grew up playing in the woods. Spent most of my childhood in the woods. I was in the Black Forest in Germany, or some random woods in Germany, or when I came to the US, you know, as a child, I'd take my dog and my BB gun, my fishing pole, and I'd be out in the woods all the time. Now, with all of this crazy stuff going on, like when you live in an area and you're in the woods all of the time, like I was, or like this man more than likely is, you know your region, you know what animals are out there, you can recognize the sounds, you know what doesn't exist there. You know, you're not going to be in, West Virginia in the woods and come across, a male lion, for instance, so you're not going to hear a lion's roar. You're going to know what's in those woods for the most part, especially mammals, because you have to look out for them. But all this crazy stuff going on now, it's almost terrifying to, it's a terrifying prospect to even think about going deep into the woods. I've seen videos of people that were like 20 miles off of a trail into the woods and up in a tree getting some sleep because they were hunting, and then they're hearing all these crazy sounds in the middle of the night coming towards them, but they can't see anything. And so they pack up, jump down, they take off running, and then they hide for a little bit, and then they can still hear them coming, but they can't see at all. They see nothing. They can hear, a group of something coming after them. It's the strangest thing. Yeah, I stay out of the woods now, which is sad because I loved being. That was kind of my me time, my place where I could just, be and not be bothered. So it's sad with whatever's out there now. You just don't know. You've got Montauk, in New York that are, having these weird creatures show up on shores that nobody knows what they're a mix of, but you wouldn't want to run across them, on a game trail or something. But yeah, you just got so much weird stuff out there now, and all of the people that come up missing during just within a year, especially when it comes to these nature trails, these nature trails throughout the U.S. All of these people that go missing in these national parks. It's insane. And most of us that have done our research, we know what's going on. We know why they're coming up missing. But it's like, those are national parks, and so that's kind of expected with that amount of people missing each year. But could this happen, if I were to go to, my local woods and go hang out, which I do, I go fishing there, but, I'm always armed and I'm always looking out for stuff. I make sure I'm in a wide area so nothing can sneak up behind me, but I'm not out there, camping or anything. I'm just fishing. So I'm not 20 miles in. I'm like a mile or 3/4 of a mile in, but still, you just never know these days, and that's the sad part. It takes away that kind of I don't know, it takes from that experience. I know a lot of kids today that still like to hang out in the woods and just be out there with nature, and it's just not safe anymore to be doing that, whether it's something that we're unaware of, or whether it's just crazy people. Just never know. So here we're going to play something by Alan Watts. I've discussed him before. I think you all should look up his topics and listen to him or watch them, whichever you have the opportunity to do. It will definitely enhance your well-being a lot, just to listen to him. Let's listen.
If you were told that you were going to be given half an hour's interview with God, and you had the privilege of asking one question, I wonder what you would ask. You might be given some preparation too. Because when you think, what is your ultimate question, you'll probably do many things before you arrive at it. And I know many people would discover that they had no question to ask. The situation would be altogether too overwhelming. But many people to whom I've put this problem say that the question that they would ask is, who am I? And that is something we know very little about. Because whatever it is that we call I is too close for inspection. It's like trying to bite your own teeth or to touch the tip of your finger with the tip of the same finger. And although other people can tell you who you are and do, they only see you from the outside, as you see them from the outside. And you don't see from the inside. And so the nature of what it is that we call I is extremely puzzling, because there is some confusion as to how much of us is I. But nowadays, most of us seem to feel that whatever it is that I is located in the head. Somewhere behind the eyes and between the ears is the center. And the rest of us is an appendage, a vehicle, which carries the self around. Now, popular speech also reflects the sensation that I am very different from what we call the other. Other people, other things, anything that we can become aware of is sort of other. There is an opposition, apparently, between the knower and the known. And so we talk about facing reality. We talk about coming into this world as if somehow we didn't belong. As if instead of being leaves growing out of a tree, we were a lot of birds that had alighted on bare branches. And it has become common sense for most people living in the 20th century today to adopt the 19th century philosophy of science, which interprets the physical universe outside human bodies as being a mechanical contraption, which is essentially stupid. Unfeeling, automatic, composed of mainly geological elements, rocks, gases, and so forth. And therefore we feel rather alone and left out of this thing, in contrast with the ideas of Ptolemaic astronomy. Instead of being at the center of the universe, we are on the outer limits of a minor galaxy, revolving around an unimportant star on a small, minute ball of rock. And therefore, that astronomical way of looking at things is simply overwhelming. It makes us feel not only of no importance, but also very much left out. That is the common sense of most people living today. We did, of course, have a religious view of our nature, that we were the children of a loving God who is in charge of this whole operation. But very few people actually believe that anymore. A great many people think they ought to believe in it, and would like to believe in it, but they don't. Most ministers that I know don't believe it, but they feel guilty about this because they feel they ought to. But it became implausible. There never was a serious argument against it. It simply became unthinkable in comparison with the dimensions of the universe as we now see it. So having lost a way of looking at the world, an image of the world which gave us some sense of meaning, we now have an image of the world which gives us none at all. And so we feel rather inclined to put up a fight against the whole show. Interestingly enough, when in the 19th century we switched our common sense from supernaturalism to naturalism, one would think that a naturalist would be a person who loved nature, just as a materialist ought to be a person who loves material, but certainly isn't. With what is called the philosophy of scientific naturalism, so as to say, what you are functioning as a rational ego with values and with a capacity to love is simply the epiphenomenon of a purely mechanical process. Too bad. So as a result of this so-called naturalism, we began to put up the most whopping fight against nature that was ever engaged in. And that fight is an expression of our fury and of our feeling of being left out. So that the technological experiment, which became possible as a result of the mechanical sciences, has largely been conducted in a spirit of rage. And the results are evident all around us. Because we are in a position where we realize that we cannot help interfering with the world. To be alive is to interfere. You must interfere. You cannot go back and say, hands off nature, let's leave it all alone. Because you're stuck with it. Especially once you've started to interfere in a major way. We have so altered our environment that there is no hope for it but to go ahead. But we can, to some extent, change direction. But the only way that I can see of our effectively changing direction is through a transformation of the feeling that we have of our own existence and of what we mean by I. Because what we think of as I is much more a symbol than it is a reality. The whole mind-body is much more than anything we mean by I. I largely stands for your personality, your role in life. So when you speak of being a real person, it really means being a genuine fake. Because the personality is only the front. What is behind it? Well, of course, the organism is behind it. The whole organism. And we must be very careful not to confuse the organism with various symbols that we have for it, because those symbols can be extremely misleading. If we say the organism is the body, what we usually mean by the body is an impoverished meaning. When we speak of my body, that is an unenriched meaning of the word body. Because what you really are as a body, as a living organism, is not some sort of separate existence coated by a skin which divides you from the rest of the world. When actually, from a biological point of view, the human skin and all skins are osmotic membranes. You are much more like a whirlpool in a stream. You flow. You are a process.
Whirlpool in a stream. That is a very fitting description. Extremely fitting description.
We need to talk about Rashad Jamal.
Alright, y'all, I just woke up, so don't mind the crazy hair, no makeup or pajamas, but we need to talk about Rashad Jamal. But before I go any further, I have to give a disclaimer because this message is too important for them to take this down. This video was made strictly for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered factual, and it's 100% speculation. These are my theories, my opinions, my thoughts. And even though a lot of people out there agree with them, it does not make it fact. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and say that I'm an actress and I'm practicing my movie lines. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into this. So, Rashad Jamal, he was a big TikToker. I'm sure some of you have heard of him. If by chance you've been living under a rock and you don't know who I'm talking about, I will insert a clip of his here so you can see who I'm talking about.
They tell you that God is Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. He knows all things. You do. You knew every event that was going to transpire, and you chose your storyline before you came here. And being a rising ascended master, you chose a storyline that would challenge you to remember it.
And please, I always encourage you guys to do your own research. Do not take anything that I say as a fact, nor anything anyone else says as a fact. Look up Rashad Jamal on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, watch his videos, and make your own assumption and your own opinions. But if any of you know him from his content that he's been uploading, then you know that he considers himself to be a spiritual awakener. And he posts extremely truth-seeking content. He exposes a lot to do with our hidden history and lots of other things. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with everything that Rashad Jamal says, because there's definitely been a few videos where I've watched of his and been like, I don't know, bro, I think you're stretching. But I'm not saying that he didn't stand for something amazing and that he wasn't trying to do something amazing. And I'm sorry, but anyone who identifies as a spiritual awakener and thinks that they were put here on this planet to help awaken the masses and bring light to this topic that needs to be talked about, they're not going to go out and hurt children. Sorry, but they're not. Not if they truly believe in the messages that they're portraying, like Rashad Jamal and his wife did. Now, you know, when you speak out against these people, that doesn't go well for you. Look at any other truth seeker or whistleblower or anybody who's tried to bring light to a topic that they don't want talked about. Fuck, Snowden had to flee the country. See, what they used to do when you talked out against them is they would make you look crazy or even unalive you, right? So people who post the same content that I do or that Rashad Jamal does, we had to always say we're not suicidal, right? Okay, but now you don't only have to worry about that. Now you have to worry about them making up some BS charges and trying to stick you in prison for the rest of your life because they don't like the messages that you're preaching online. It's fucking scary, man. And anybody that posts the same content that is similar or at all similar to what Rashad Jamal was posting, you should be afraid to. It's scary. And they're doing this man hella wrong. They're trying to say that he harmed a child in the first degree and molestation child. Yes, I said that weird, so they won't take me down. And now because of this BS that they made up, that's literally just hearsay, Rashad Jamal's wife came online and said that they were tampering with evidence, that there wasn't really any evidence. It's crazy. Now they have this man in prison for the next 16 years, and then he has to do 20 years on parole after that. He has to register as a sex offender, and he can never be alone with his children ever again. All because he was trying to bring some fucking attention to some shit that nobody wants attention brought to. Well, the Europeans running this country don't want attention brought to. And it's sick, dude. It's so sick. And then there's some of you out there who don't even know the full story and you just are like, oh yeah, he's a freaking pedo, he's nasty, cancel Rashad Jamal. Like, y'all, if you can't see through this, I can't help you. Look at the shit my man was posting. Look at the fact that they've done this to him before. They can't just freaking unalive him. That would bring too much attention to the stuff that he's talking about. And then people who weren't even awake or hip to this shit would be like, wow, he was saying this, and then they unalived him, so it's gotta be true. So they don't do that. They're just gonna come up with some BS charges and put him in jail, so shut him up for the next 30 years or so. It's sick, dude. And if they can do this to somebody who has a huge platform like that and lots of people are gonna see it, what are they doing to regular people who don't have a voice or millions of people watching their videos and it can spread their word and what's happening to them? My thoughts and prayers are with Rashad Jamal, his wife, and his children. I am so sorry that the government could do y'all like this. And for the rest of you, you need to wake up. This shit is truly, truly fucking horrifying. Like I said, I didn't always agree with everything that Rashad Jamal posted, but we pretty much stood for the same things. He was trying to wake people up and bring awareness to this topic just like I am. So it really fucking scares me to see that this was able to happen to him and that a lot of people are buying it. Free Rashad Jamal, man. And for those of you who don't really know what I'm talking about, go do your own research before you form your own opinions. And to all my followers, I just want to cover my ass. I'm not suicidal. I would never harm myself or anybody else in my life. I love my husband and I love my 3 children with all of my heart. So, since I post some kind of similar content to what he did, please, if anything ever comes out about me, don't believe it. This is just their new way to take down people who are trying to bring the truth to you guys. And we have to power through it. This is so scary. Let me know what you think about this stuff in the comments.
Free my man, Rashad Jamal. That's sad. But this is, the point that it's getting to where, things are gonna get worse before it gets better. So many people, I say this so much because I see it so much. So many people are waking up so many people are truly waking up as of late. You know, like I've said before, 15 to 20% of the population of the world has woken up. And that 15 to 20% is carrying the rest of the world on their backs with how they've woken up, how they've awoken, and what they're putting out there. And the power that we have together terrifies those in power. It terrifies them, because once we realize who we are, what we are, and how to change things, they don't have a pot to piss in. They have nowhere to run, because things will change. Yeah, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. It always does. You know? I always say, just like Sun Tzu, you know, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It's always gonna get worse before it gets better. You know? But I think people realize that, and people are understanding that. But, you know, yeah, it's scary that he had such a large following and they want to shut him up. And they, you know, these things have been in place, these private prisons, you know, the entire court system is flawed, you know, legal system is completely, you know, jacked up. So it's easy for them to do that to a person, because they want to shut him up because he's speaking truth. And I'm of the same mind as her. I didn't agree with every single thing that he said, but I knew that he was speaking truth because, as I've said before, I come from a place of just knowing. It's not belief, it's not faith, it's knowing. I had some experiences that brought me to that place and allowed me to remember. So I know. And I could recognize when he was speaking real things, or when he was saying something that maybe you're reaching a bit on that one, you know. But when anybody is talking to you about something that you know a lot about, you can very easily tell if they even know what they're talking about or not. It's very easy to tell. So, you know, yeah, he was doing some great stuff. And I always say, you know, if people were doing this and then asking you for money, like these prosperity preachers, you know, with these mega churches, if they're saying this and then doing that, then yeah, completely, you know, wolf in sheep's clothing, snake oil salesman, get rid of him. He wasn't asking for any of that. You know, he wasn't on there saying donate to this or trying to sell you something. You know, he was putting this out there because he felt that his soul that he needed to put these messages out there to the masses. And now look what's happened to him. And it's scary. It's very scary. So I hope everything, you know, works out for him and actually gets out, and none of the stuff they're trying to do to him sticks. But we'll just have to see, and prayers go out to his family and himself.
These people have literally made billions of dollars off these Jehovah's Witness people. They kept them dumb and ignorant. And when I say dumb, it's not an insult. I'm talking about IQ level are low. The majority of the IQ levels are low. It's not an insult. It's a fact. And why? Because they encourage low IQs, because they don't want people that can wake up and realize what's going on. So they actually encourage it. And that's how they have you functioning. And they have the governing body of the Jehovah's Witness, which are these guys who are now anointed gods walking on earth. These 8 guys, they're anointed gods controlling everything these people hear, see, smell, touch, feel, and then interrogating random interrogations to randomly then select someone to eject them from the organization in such a manner that is so horrendous that the majority of these people commit suicide. Look it up. Just Google it. Google Jehovah Witness suicide. And guess what you're going to find? A horrifying number of people, articles, jumping off of buildings. Jehovah Witness jumps out of a building. Jehovah Witness jumps in front of a moving train. Jehovah Witness jumps in front of a moving bus. It's Jehovah's Witness himself in the head. It's just back to back to back to back. Remember, in the beginning, I said 5 to 10 times more than a normal suicide rate than the average person. And so what they're doing is creating so much trauma in people that they're going out here and themselves. That has to be a super red flag for everyone. They've destroyed the lives of millions of people around this planet, and they continue to do it, all for the ability for them to generate billions of dollars in tax-free real estate that they enjoy the huge benefits of. These 8 men live in a super mansion in upstate New York. I forget the number, but it's in $1 billion. Their mansion is over $1 billion. Their mansion. They all live there, and they are gods on earth and being treated and living as gods on earth. They have their heaven now, while they have these other Jehovah's Witnesses doing grunt work, running out there, waiting to die so they can live. All right? At some point, we have to wake up as people on this planet, and we got to snap out of this trance that we're in. And we got to stop being susceptible to fanaticism. And you can be a fanatic at anything. You can be a fanatic at wokeness. There's a lot of fanatic wokeness. This is where you get all the people that are worrying about the shapes of planets and there's no atmosphere and the sun is a light bulb and we're on the back of a turtle and all these crazy now the new one is birds aren't real, they're robots, and that's fanaticism. That's fanaticism. So you can turn anything into a fanatical belief system and make it into a religion. We have people making wokeness into a religion now by becoming fanatics. People are out here willing to kill, hurt, shoot, and injure people over what they think a person may or may not be even eating. All this is just craziness. So we have to grow up as a people. We have to realize, when we come to the point where we realize that we are God walking in the flesh and that everything else is also a part of us, then we won't have any of these problems anymore.
I'm going to pause right there. What he just said, my next video will reflect. I just want you to have that in your mind.
Imagine if everyone tomorrow woke up and realized that they were divine. All the world's problems would end instantaneously. Instantaneously, it'd be over. Everything would be pristine. Why? Because of mindset. Mindset is what's fueling the beast. And what is the beast? The beast is a doggone group of people, in this particular case on this planet, less than 100 families, that run and control 8.5 billion. Less than 100 families. And every day that number keeps going up because people are being born and born and born and born every single day. Soon it's going to be 10 billion. You're going to hear me saying 10 billion people soon, right? In a couple more years or so. And so, but less than 100 families controlling that many people. And this, in the case of the Jehovah's Witnesses, millions of people being controlled by 8 people. 8 people that are wreaking havoc on these people in such a way that it robs them of their entire childhood, robs them of their entire education process, drains all the money from their bank accounts, has them living as poor paupers with bad credit, and then on top of that, you have them running the street, recruiting more people to keep the engine going while they sit back in an over $2 or $3 billion, I forget the exact number, mansions, billion, over $1 billion, mansion, living together like gods and on earth, being pampered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and kicking out all the orders and telling people what they can and can't do, and making decrees and laws and rules and so forth and so on. And we're falling for it left and right. At some point, we got to stop. We have to realize that we're all God and we are all divine, and everything is connected to us. So I'm not talking to anyone right now. I'm talking to myself, because there's only one consciousness that exists. There's only one being. There's only one. Separation is actually an illusion. Separation is an illusion. We're all one. I'm speaking to myself, and when you're talking to somebody, you're speaking to yourself. We're all just one different aspect or fractal of the divine spark. That's it. And when everybody understands that, life could be so easy, so tranquil. There'll be no problems. There'll be no stress, no trauma. That's how you create heaven on earth, by teaching that message. That message. That's the one. That's the message that needs to be shared around, you know. And so we have to focus on doing that, passing that knowledge around. Again, this wasn't to try to bash anybody for being Jehovah's Witness. I'm just laying out the facts and showing the receipts, guys. It's a sick thing. It's a sick religion. And it's something that's really damaging people. Mostly young women are the worst. They're the ones that are mostly committing the suicide. They're the ones that are mostly being put into these forced random interrogations and asked about their and all this crazy stuff. Fluid comes. I mean, I wish I could play it for you, but I just can't. There's videos, there's entire 2 and 3 hour videos on YouTube about people who escaped that thing and what the torture and the trauma that they lived through while they were in it. So anyway, not to beat a dead horse, guys, but I wanted to relay this message to you today. That is, to me, there's enough circumstantial evidence to prove that Jehovah's Witnesses have destroyed the lives of millions of people all over the world. And I do mean all over the world because they are a worldwide organization that has literally sucked the life out of these.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I can't post that on here, but you guys should definitely look that up. And what he's saying is true. All of it's true. And we are just branches of consciousness. So we're connected to consciousness, source, God, experiencing ourselves and each other, which is all one. We're all the same. It's hard for people to wrap their head around that. Religion was one of the worst things to ever be created because it was a method of control. Most people couldn't even read back then, you know? So, especially with the Catholics, I said that in one of my other videos. They didn't allow them to learn how to read. So, they could tell them whatever they wanted that was quote-unquote biblical, but it wasn't. So, think about how many people they unalived, because of their cause. It's ridiculous.
These people have lived.
So if you want to pause, if you'd like to pause, screenshot this, I would highly suggest it. But I would also highly suggest you look up what this is, talking about the Frankfurt School of Critical Thinking. This is Frankfurt, Germany. Look this up. I've been there tons of times, where one of the major airports is. So, but look up this specific thing.
As far as I've studied and looked into this, is the only place where what the Pioneer 10 probes 10 and 11 found is ever contained in a diagram. The rest of everything was lost. They called it a dead star, and it was located 50 billion miles from our solar system in 1983. Now, why is it called a dead star? Well, this is going to get into our understanding of the true history of our solar system that we haven't been taught. When we look at data from other solar systems, we find that the common theme is that about 80% of all solar systems are binary, and often trinary, means they have at least 2, if not 3 stars within them. Now, when we look at ours, we're told that we only have 1 star, known as our sun. But yet, the Pioneer probes found something else completely different than that. And that, to me, is probably the greatest secret that's been kept from us. Because think about it for a moment. NASA came out with the announcement in the 1990s describing how there was a planet beyond the Kuiper Belt, and they openly announced that, and then everything went dead. That tells us a lot, because it means that they didn't know that that binary companion was out there. And once they discovered it, they realized it was part of this entire cycle. To me, it's the same thing as if they knew that a comet or an asteroid was headed to Earth. All that information would be covered up and hidden because they wouldn't want mass panic. I believe that this is the exact same thing as that, where they figured out that there's this object out there, this dead star that they identified, And the way they were able to identify that is through the signature of the star. And they found that that dead star is part of this entire cycle with our solar system and sun. Now, what kind of cycle are we talking about? What we find when we look at data from this dead star is that it has a complete rotation of about 13,000 years, which would exactly line up to these 13,000-year events. As this dead star approaches our sun, as it gets closest, it's known as perihelion, and as it goes farther away, it's known as aphelion, and that's part of a great cycle in the dance between our two stars. Now, this dead star was identified as a dead star because of the signature that it presented on the Pioneer probes. They were actually engineered to be able to go out and find an object that was extremely dark and hard to see. That's why it was initially equipped with that technology to find planets, because planets are extremely difficult to see because they're not lit up. But instead, they also found an object that was dark as well. Now, this star, called a dead star in the 1987 Science and Invention Encyclopedia, was called a dead star because of the way they identified the signature of it. It means that it once was a star like our sun, and it either had a supernova or somehow exploded in a way where it became a smaller object but with extreme high density. Similar to in the way where you see a star collapse to turn into a black hole. But in this case, it didn't. It just remained as what is known in some circles in ancient studies as a dead star or a dark star. That's actually been referred in several areas. One of the best places we can find that is the Celtic and Egyptian book known as the Cobran Bible. And in that, it...
But if space is water, where does the watery space begin? Where is the edge? Well, if we start listening to what the Bible tells us in some ancient scriptures, maybe we should listen to all of it. It says, God placed the firmament in the sky to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters below. I have no idea what that means, but I'm starting to get an interesting picture. And then how did God create the flood? It tells us that God opened the gates of heaven to let the water pour in on the earth. Okay, now I'm starting to see how you can create a flood. If space is water, it's starting to make more sense. And then suddenly, vacuum just becomes a myth and not a scientific fact. Because the simple basic physics of a vacuum in space just doesn't work. If there are any scientists that actually just think about this, or physicists, the whole thing of vacuum in space is just not compatible with any kind of physics formula or physics that we can put to it. Where does the vacuum begin? Vacuum is one of the most powerful forces of nature. Where does that vacuum begin? We often get confused between gravity-free and vacuum. They're not the same thing. Just because there's no gravity doesn't mean you're in a vacuum. And just because you're in a vacuum doesn't mean there's no gravity. The two are not the same thing. So don't get confused by vacuum and gravity-free. What you can't do in space or in a vacuum, what you can't do in infinite vacuum is you can't propel sound. You can't have explosions, fire, propulsion, jet engines, rockets, none of this stuff. Can't do that because there's nothing to propel against. And then these guys on YouTube that make these vacuum tubes, they go, oh, look, I created a vacuum tube in my garage. I'll show you that you can propel a rocket in a vacuum. I go, really? You've lost your brain. You're comparing a fishbowl in your garage to the infinite vacuum of space? You really lost your mind, dude. And then you start watching like SpaceX sending a rocket up into space, and the very well-trained presenter that's got all the buzzwords. She knows all the lingo and all the buzzwords. And at one stage I was watching and she says, and the rocket is about to enter the vacuum of space. Really? And millions of people are watching this and they believe this. You see, they just, oh, the rocket just entered the vacuum of space. Where? How did it, where? Please frickin' explain that to me. In scientific terms, not in BS terms. Oh, you won't understand it. No, please try me. I want to understand this. Explain to me where that vacuum begins. And we start realizing that everything we've been told about the moon, moon landing, space, is probably one of those big hoaxes. It is a tough one to swallow, but we're going to have to start swallowing it sooner than later. The longer they string us along, the longer the worse this is going to get. So, for those of you that still believe that we landed on the moon, I'm going to shatter that for you right now. If you've not seen Jay Widener's Kubrick Odyssey, that's the first point of departure. watch J. Widener's Kubrick Odyssey, and you will never believe another word NASA tells you. You'll never ever believe that we landed on the moon, and you'll understand Stanley Kubrick's role in this entire thing, and why he eventually died when he pushed it a bit too far with eyes wide shut. But basically, everything you've ever seen from the moon, all the images or footage of the astronauts, was shot by Stanley Kubrick in the early days. I'm not sure who shot the more latter part, possibly him as well. But the earliest moon landings and all that shot by Stanley Kubrick with his very, very specific style of cinematography. It's a dead giveaway. And that gave him basically the freedom to make whatever movies he wanted. He then made a movie called The Shining to tell us that he was the guy that shot the moon landings. And for some people that still think the moon is a real physical thing in the sky, that we landed on this physical object in the sky, the image of the moon that we see from Earth is part of the agenda. It's part of the particle physics agenda that I'm coming to make us believe of particles that make up everything in creation. And we need to reconsider what the moon is, because after you've seen the lunar wave, you'll never think of the moon the same way again. And this is what the lunar wave is. The first one was filmed in 2012, and it's this weird electronic glitch that goes across the moon every so often. It's been filmed hundreds of times now, not just by one person, but by many other photographers with very high definition lenses. And pay attention, because it's like the old computer and TV screens. You see this line, this electronic line, move across the moon. Follows the edges, the contours, and the line moves from bottom to top, from side, from left to right. It moves in all different directions. This has become known as the lunar wave, which gives us a very clear indication that the moon is not what we think it is, and it's most likely a hologram.
All right, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. Again, this is the 2012 lunar wave footage, the best example of the lunar wave that we have, and I'm going to show you some things that sharp-eyed followers have spotted long, long ago, and that I have talked about, but I have never taken the time to carefully illustrate. And what I'm going to show you here means an awful lot. But I'm also going to show the pulses that happen in the lower left limb of the moon. So watch the lower left there, and I'm just going to run a straight slowed down view, 30%. If you've got sharp eyes, you'll see what we detected on a 60-inch monitor. Now look inside the circle. There's a pulse that goes from lower left to upper right, and in the next circle, the yellow one, there's a lateral sweep that goes from left to right straight across the screen. And this is all going on as the wave is starting at the bottom. So now look at the pulses backwards and forwards. That's backwards. This is forwards, coming from the lower left limb of the moon. You can see the pulses now that I've put filters on them, how they have a curved aspect to them. And if you've got sharp eyes, you'll see the sweep up above. Now what I'm going to show you now, we have talked about, and many sharp-eyed viewers have known that this was an important thing about this clip for a long time. Here comes the wave. Look at the dark underlined crater in the center of your screen. Watch how it's displaced, almost like you're looking through water. There goes the wave backwards, forwards, the wave hits the crater, displaces. This wave is displacing, as if you were looking through water, the entire image of the moon. Now I've never taken the time to animate this. I have talked about it. There it is zoomed in. Now this is running at 30%. And I'm going to zoom out. There goes the wave to the top, and there's going to be another wave coming in from the bottom. Now I'm going to run this at 30%, so as the wave comes in, you can choose any landmark you want. Here comes the wave from the bottom to the top. Choose any little landmark you can see there, and watch it be displaced. Now that round-looking ring crater, forwards, backwards, and one more time forward, and I'll zoom out. And you can watch it go all the way to the top. Again, this is at 30% with quite a few filters like find edge and some other things, invert.
Okay, I think you get the gist of that. This has been filmed many times now, not just by one person. So it seems to me that that we're not looking at anything physical, and that this hologram or whatever the hell that is possibly hiding something that's really behind it. And then the Mars landing, you know, and when we first landed on Mars, I got so excited. I was just really excited about the Mars probe and all the pictures from Mars. Boy, it was like one of the happiest days of my life. So for me to come to terms and admit that this is probably a hoax is just really a tough pill to swallow. But unfortunately, we have to swallow these pills, because when you start researching the whole Mars landing and the experiments and the training they did in the Canadian Arctic on Devon Island, I suspect that pretty much everything and all the footage we've ever seen on Mars was actually just shot on Devon Island, very far northern Canada. And it's depressing, but that's what it is. And we've got to deal with it.
Open your eyes. What do you guys think about that? I've seen that wave in a few videos, and I've seen videos that show, you know, being able to see stars through the moon. So, you know, the moon's up front, stars are behind it, and I've watched, you know, some really good astronomers take those photos. You know, I've got a good sized telescope. I look at the moon at least a couple of times a week, especially, you know, on the days where it's clear. You know, I let it set up by my back door, go out there and just stare at it and look at it. So, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that it's transparent? The Dogon tribe in Africa, I mentioned this in my last video, I believe. The Dogon tribe, they have oral traditions to where they remember when the moon didn't exist. And they also knew about Sirius B, Sirius C, before we ever did, and we still haven't found Sirius C, but they know about it, you know. So yeah, our ancestors were a lot smarter than what school teaches you. You know, they were not these, you know, apes and just very remedial in everything that they did. It wasn't like that, you know. It was until a point, but then, you know, our DNA got changed, and scientifically we can see that our DNA had been changed. You can get anyone's DNA and see that scientifically. Science, a lot of scientists just won't express how it got changed, but we have the information out there that tells us about it.
What is that?
Fireworks or something.
Aliens? I don't know.
What the heck
What is that? You see it, right?
I'm actually, yes,
Okay.
I do see it.
Okay.
It's getting weirder by the second.
I know.
It's like they're sticking around.
We're gonna do some
Anybody?
digging and figure out what that is. Back in a moment.
Are we rolling on that?
What do you think that was?
You see that? Just like NASA, when they see something like that, they go off air. Same thing with the ISS. As soon as they, you know, see something like that, they cut the transmission. And I have a huge problem with a lot of this, because, you know, as a lot of you know, I worked for NASA for a long time, and yeah, it's strange. And now you see congressional hearings, Senate being held, you know, about the lies that NASA has putting out there and all of the fakery. And they're talking about, you know, NASA gets a massive budget. NASA pays very well. So, talking about the massive budget that they get every year from the government. And that's not to include the black projects, the projects that no one knows about. And so they get this massive budget, and so congressmen are in court saying, you know, if this is all fakery, then, you know, we need this money back. Where's this money going to? You know, what is the truth? So you have people out there, you know, I've seen some video on those hearings. I've seen some video on the Smithsonian thing about, you know, their lawsuits that they've got going on for hiding and trying to deceive the population and hide, you know, human history, you know. And years ago I thought that maybe they're trying to do that because they don't want to have to rewrite history books. That's what I thought, you know, a long time ago. But now I'm of the mind to where I think that they just don't want us to know, because they want us to be taught like our education system, like just like, you know, John Rockefeller said in the 1920s, you know, I need a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. You know, 12 years of school, what do we teach them? Everything about nothing. And we keep them busy, because while they're busy, then they're not thinking about what we're doing, nor will they even believe it. And that's the crazy thing. You know, he said this, he did this, and people are like, no, of course not. You know, that's an evil man. That is a completely evil and greedy man. And, you know, he's one of those heads of one of those families that controls everything. And people are like, no way. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the data, you know, it makes sense. It makes more sense than not, you know. But he did say that, he did do that, and that's how it is, you know. The average person has a pretty low IQ, and the average person, you know, right now between 18 and 25, they couldn't tell you anything about taxes, about laws, or about businesses, owning a business, or about, you know, making money, or any of this stuff. They couldn't tell you anything about their own history, let alone our true history. But they can tell you, you know, who's the new popular singer, or, you know, what football team won the championship, or what basketball team is in the lead right now this year, and, you know, all these things. And it's all a ploy to distract you, to keep you away. And just like, you know, Jordan Maxwell was saying, you know, in Roman times, they created a circus for these people. So they put these people in a circus, and then they allowed other people to watch the circus. And meanwhile, you know, it's like the sleight of hand, you know. All you see is this hand, but you have no idea what this hand is doing. So, you know, that they've been doing it. And I can go on and on about, you know, Rome and the Vatican and all of that, but I'll save that for another video. All right, that's Rockefeller right there. That is an extremely evil man. And that other guy, I can't remember his name, but he's one of those prosperity preachers. And he said that, you know, he never flies coach, so God wanted him to have a private jet. And then years later, God wanted him to upgrade to a better jet. And, you know, people go up to him asking him about that. Journalists ask him about that. And, you know, these people are just, they're the worst degenerates on the face of this earth. All of them. You know, and I feel so bad for the congregation in these mega churches from these prosperity preachers. You know, they're up there just, you know, blabbing. And the funny thing about this, a lot of those prosperity teachers or prosperity preachers, a lot of their education came from what's his face that started Scientology. So him and what was his name? Carl Sagan. So him and Carl Sagan, they were both part of Alan, what was his name? The guy that started the Satanic Church. Can't think of it off the top of my head. Anyways, and so Carl Sagan and what's his name slipping my mind? You know what I'm talking about. The Scientology. So him and that guy, they were all joined in that Satanic Church, and then they were also the guy that started the Church of Scientology. Also went to learn how to be one of these prosperity preachers, but he took it a step further. L. Ron Hubbard. So he took it a step further, and instead of becoming a prosperity preacher, he did something else with it and formed an entire cult, you know, and make no bones about it, it is a cult. You know, it's no different than the LDS, Mormons, especially the upper echelon, you know, and just like the Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, these are all cults, you know, but they were taught, their teachings go back to the 60s, and so they were all being taught out in California how to have these mega churches, and it hadn't happened yet. They were kind of perfecting their craft back then, but the ties that they have, Carl Sagan is the one that helped design the Hubble telescope, you know, main people behind that. And so but yeah, when you're talking, you know, all of those things linked together. But yeah, do your research. This is the face of pure evil. You know, he just looks evil. He has an evil air about him. And yeah, but do your research into that. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you've heard of any of this stuff. Hopefully you have, and we can discuss it. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And I also want to give a big shout out to everybody that's been subscribing. Please hit that subscribe and that notification bell and smash that like button. Run the numbers up on the algorithm. Let's get this out there to people. Let's get this awareness out there. We're building this community together. We're all in this together. And we need to get this awareness out there to people, because so many people are shadow banned, blocked. Things are happening to people like Rashad Jamal and other people. And so we need to get this information out there ASAP. That's the main goal, is to get this out there to anyone who needs to see it, everyone who needs to hear it, and make it available. So I appreciate, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate everybody who's subscribing and commenting. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate all of it. So send me some shout outs in the comments. Let me know what you like to hear, what you like to see, you know, what topics you guys want to go over. I appreciate the ones that have asked me about things in the comments. I interact with you all, so you know, if you ask me something, I'm definitely going to speak on it, and I'll speak on it on here, not just in the comments. So shout outs to all of you that have been actually communicating in the comments. And so I'll see you guys on the next one.